Japan covers 145,937 square miles, and most of the world pictures it as one thing, a nation of bamboo gardens and wooden temples whose architectural story begins with the arrival of Buddhism in the 6th century. That picture is wrong by more than 10,000 years. People settled this archipelago around the 10th millennium before Christ, raised stone circles on its northern coasts, carved monoliths into its hillsides, built earthen tombs larger than the pyramids, and cut shrines into the rock that have never been explained. They left structures behind, and some of those structures still cannot be accounted for. There is a stone ship in the Nara Hills, weighing 800 tons that no one knows the purpose of. There is an underwater monument off the coast of Yonaguni Island, whose terraced steps cover an area larger than 2 football fields, and whose origin is still debated. There are giant stone chambers in Asuka village built from blocks weighing more than 70 tons each, transported without wheels or pack animals, and no surviving record explains how. Stay for number 1, because that one is the largest ancient stone structure ever found in Japan, and no one can agree on whether it is even man-made. Consider how deep the record runs. The Japanese Archaeological Association has documented more than 160,000 kofun, ancient burial mounds, across all 47 prefectures. The Agency for Cultural Affairs maintains records of more than 20 Jomon period stone circle sites in northern Japan alone, most of which have never been fully excavated. Later came the Yayoi period, then the Kofun period, then the Asuka era, each leaving stone and earth structures the next era could not fully read. The question with almost every site is the same: who built it, and why? Number 13. The Sanai Maruyama site lies on a coastal terrace above Aomori Bay, in Aomori Prefecture, in the far north of Honshu. It is a Jomon period settlement that was occupied for roughly 1,500 years, from approximately 3,500 before Christ to 2,000 before Christ, and its discovery in 1992 forced a complete rewrite of what was known about prehistoric Japanese engineering. The most unexplained structure on the site is a set of 6 large chestnut wood posts arranged in an elliptical pattern, each post roughly 1 meter in diameter, buried deep into the ground, and originally rising to an estimated height of at least 15 meters. The purpose of this structure has never been determined. Some archaeologists argue it was a watchtower. Others suggest it was a ceremonial pole structure. Some argue it served an astronomical function, marking solstices or seasonal transitions. The surviving post molds and base fragments do not provide enough evidence to confirm any of these theories. What is known is that the Jomon people who built it had no agriculture. They were hunter-gatherers, and yet they engineered a wooden structure taller than a 5-story building and maintained it for centuries. Number 12. The Oyu stone circles lie on a plateau at an elevation of roughly 180 meters along the Oyu River in Kazuno City, Akita Prefecture, in the Tohoku region of northern Japan. The site contains 2 stone circles, the Manza and the Nanakado, created between 4,200 and 2,700 years ago during the late Jomon period. Each circle is constructed from river stones arranged in concentric rings with sundial-like markers at the center. The stones were transported from riverbeds several kilometers away. The site was discovered in 1931 and excavated in detail in 1946, and again in 1951 and 1952 by the archaeologist Ichiro Yawata. What has never been resolved is the purpose. The sundial-like central markers suggest an astronomical or calendrical function, but the alignment does not correspond precisely to any known solar or lunar event. Excavations revealed what appear to be burial deposits near the circles, but the burial customs do not match any other known Jomon site. In 2021, the Oyu stone circles were inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List as part of the Jomon prehistoric sites in northern Japan. The inscription acknowledged the site without explaining it. Number 11. The Inariyama Kofun in Gyoda, Saitama Prefecture, is a keyhole-shaped burial mound dating to the late 5th or early 6th century. In 1968, during an archaeological excavation of the moat surrounding the mound, researchers discovered an iron sword buried in a grave at the edge of the tomb. The sword bore a gold-inlaid inscription of 115 characters, the longest surviving inscription from the Kofun period. The inscription names a man named Waweke and describes his military service under a ruler it calls the Great King Wakatakeru, widely identified as Emperor Yuriaku. What cannot be explained is why a sword of this significance was buried not in the main tomb chamber, which has never been opened, but in a satellite grave outside the moat. The main burial chamber remains sealed and unexcavated. Number 10. The Takamatsuzuka Kofun is a circular burial mound in the village of Osaka, Nara Prefecture, dating to the late 7th or early 8th century. The mound stands only 5 meters tall and 16 meters in diameter. It was largely ignored until 1972, when an investigation revealed a sealed stone burial chamber, whose walls were covered in brilliantly colored frescoes depicting male court figures in Chinese-style robes, female figures known as the Asuka Beauties, and representations of the four guardian beasts of Chinese cosmology. The paintings were in extraordinary condition, having survived more than 1,300 years in the sealed chamber. What cannot be explained is the identity of the person buried there. The style of the paintings, the Chinese and Korean iconographic influences, and the dating all suggest a person of extreme importance. The most commonly proposed candidate is a member of the imperial family, but the Imperial Household Agency has not permitted any further investigation. The tomb was resealed after the initial documentation, and the paintings are now degrading due to mold and moisture inside the chamber. The Sakafuneshi site in Asuka, Nara Prefecture, consists of a group of carved granite stones whose purpose remains unknown. The most prominent stone, called the Sakafuneshi or Sake boat stone, is a large granite slab roughly 5.3 meters long, 2 meters wide, and 1 meter thick, carved with shallow channels and basins that suggest it was used for liquid. The Nihon Shoki, the ancient Japanese chronicle compiled in 720, mentions the stone in the context of a ritual performed at the imperial court, but the description is vague. The carved channels do not match any known sake production method. The basin shapes do not correspond to any known ritual vessel, and the stone sits alone, with no associated structure or building foundation, in the middle of what was once an open field. Number 8. The Kameshi, or turtle stone, stands in a rice field in Asuka, Nara Prefecture. It is a carved granite figure, roughly 3.6 meters long, 2 meters wide, and 1 meter tall, shaped to represent a turtle, with a carved head and shell pattern. It is dated to the 7th century based on stylistic comparison with other Asuka period stonework. What cannot be explained is why it was carved and placed where it stands. There is no associated shrine or temple structure. No historical document mentions the turtle. The local tradition that it was built to commemorate turtles killed in a conflict is a folk explanation from a much later period. The carving style does not match other known religious stonework from the era. It simply exists, alone in a field, with no context. If Japan's ancient stone record is news to you, drop a like and stay with it, because number 7 is the largest carved stone object in Japan, and not a single document from any era explains what it was for. Number 7. The Masuda no Iwafune, the rock ship of Masuda, stands near the top of a hill in Asuka, Nara Prefecture. It is a granite monolith approximately 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 4.7 meters tall, weighing roughly 800 tons. Its surface is carved with 2 square hollows on the top, a ridge along one side, and a carved lattice pattern on one face. It resembles a ship turned to stone. The monolith was carved in place from a single piece of the hillside granite. No record from the Asuka period, the Nara period, or the Heian period mentions it. It does not correspond to any known tomb, shrine, or ceremonial structure. The 2 hollows on top have been proposed as mortuary compartments, but no human remains have been found. The lattice pattern matches no other known Japanese carving, and the engineering required to carve an 800-ton monolith on a hilltop with 7th century tools has never been satisfactorily explained. Number 6. The Ishibutai Kofun in Asuka, Nara Prefecture, is the largest known megalithic stone chamber in Japan. It was constructed from more than 30 massive granite blocks with a total weight of approximately 2,300 tons. The ceiling stone on the south side weighs roughly 77 tons. The ceiling stone on the north side weighs 67 tons. The chamber measures roughly 5 meters wide, 7.5 meters long, and 4.8 meters high. The tomb was originally covered by an earthen mound that has eroded away, leaving the stone chamber exposed in the open. The historian Sadakichi Kita proposed in the early 20th century that the Ishibutai is the tomb of Soga no Umako, the most powerful clan leader of the Asuka period, who died in 626. The Nihon Shoki describes the construction of a vast tomb for Soga no Umako and notes that thousands of workers were mobilized to transport the stones. What cannot be explained is the logistics. The granite was quarried from a site more than 2.5 kilometers away. The largest stones weigh more than 70 tons. The Asuka period had no wheels, no pack animals capable of carrying such loads, and no cranes. The transportation method has never been determined. Number 5. The Goshikizuka Kofun in Tarumi, Kobe, Hyogo Prefecture, is a keyhole-shaped burial mound built in the late 4th or early 5th century. It is the largest surviving kofun in the Kobe area, measuring 194 meters in length. The surface of the mound was originally covered entirely in stones transported from Awaji Island, across the Akashi Strait. The construction required that thousands of stones be carried by boat across open water and then hauled up the terraced slopes of the mound. The person buried inside the Goshikizuka has never been identified. No excavation of the burial chamber has ever been conducted. The size and location suggest a ruler of considerable power, but the absence of any associated historical record from this early period means the identity is entirely unknown. The Nintoku Emperor Kofun in Sakai, Osaka Prefecture, is the largest tomb in Japan by surface area and one of the largest burial structures ever built by any civilization. The main mound measures 1,594 feet in length. The total complex, including the moats, covers 120 acres. It is longer than the Great Pyramid of Giza, is tall. It was built in the late 4th or early 5th century and is attributed to Emperor Nintoku, though the attribution is uncertain. The Imperial Household Agency has never permitted archaeological excavation of the interior. No researcher has ever entered the burial chamber. The structure is visible only from above, its full keyhole shape apparent only from aerial photography, and even now, more than 1,500 years after its construction, what is inside remains completely unknown. Number 3. The Daisen Kofun, the formal name for the Nintoku tomb complex, is surrounded by a group of more than 40 smaller kofun, called the Mozu Kofun Cluster, collectively inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 2019 as the Mozu Furuichi Kofun Group. Despite this recognition, the main burial chamber of the Daisen remains sealed. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted from the surface have been inconclusive. The Imperial Household Agency maintains that the site is sacred and that no excavation will be permitted. Number 2. The Kengosazaki Kofun Cluster in Habikino, Osaka, contains more than 900 burial mounds, the vast majority of which have never been excavated. The cluster dates from the late 4th century to the 6th century, and its scale suggests it was the primary burial ground for the ruling elite of the Yamato state. The unexcavated chambers are believed to contain bronze mirrors, weapons, armor, and ceremonial objects, but the sheer number of tombs and the legal restrictions on excavation mean that most of what lies beneath these mounds has never been documented. Number 1. The Yonaguni Monument lies underwater off the southern coast of Yonaguni Island, the westernmost inhabited island of Japan, in Okinawa Prefecture. The structure sits at a depth of 5 to 25 meters below the surface. It is more than 100 meters long, more than 25 meters tall, and its flat terraces, angular steps, and perpendicular faces give it the appearance of a massive carved platform or pyramid. The monument was discovered in 1986 by a diving instructor named Kihachiro Aratake. The debate over whether it is man-made or natural has never been resolved. Dr. Masaki Kimura, a marine geologist at the University of the Ryukyus, has spent more than 2 decades surveying the site and argues that the straight edges, right-angle corners, and carved features cannot be explained by natural geological processes. Other geologists, including Dr. Robert Schoch of Boston University, argue that the structure is a natural formation of sandstone beds that fractured along joint planes, and that the regular shapes are the result of erosion and tectonic activity. If the monument is man-made, it must have been carved before the end of the last ice age, when sea levels rose and submerged it, which would place its construction more than 10,000 years ago. That would make it the oldest known stone structure in the world, older than Göbekli Tepe, older than the pyramids. If it is natural, then it is one of the most unusual geological formations on Earth. The Japanese government has taken no official position on the question. No full archaeological excavation has ever been conducted. Japan was never only gardens and temples. People carved stone here, moved mountains of earth for their dead, and built structures whose purposes have been lost for thousands of years. 13 structures, and only a few of them have been explained. The rest stand and lie where they have always been, unexcavated, unidentified, and unanswered. And how many more have never been found at all is its own open question. If you want to see the ancient and unexplained structures of Japan documented one by one, this is the channel that does it.